All right. Awesome. So, Kayla, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me what you're doing today, what you'd like to be doing. Tell me a little background about yourself and how you got to where you are.
All right, so I consider myself a brand strategist and designer. Now I kind of want to be expanding myself more to social media as well, because that is something that I offer within branding, but I feel like it's just nice to have those the retainer clients every month and to know that like you have a good relationship with certain clients. So I'm kind of um, building myself to be like both of those together. I started designing over quarantine, started learning everything I know through YouTube and through TikTok. And yeah, and then I really kind of fell in love with it, opened my own little branding business, but it's not as large as I want it to be yet. It's kind of like, will I have enough money to pay the bills this month or will I not? Kind of a deal. So I want it to be just more consistent. And that's where I am.
Gotcha. So, self-taught business owner, plowing the fields of branding and design and
Right.
social media and all other stuff. Good for you. Um, so would you say that the struggle right now is that, well, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and say that you're younger than me and that it takes some time. So I'm always frustrated of how slow I'm moving or how slow it seems I'm moving.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to just kind of recognize and be a little bit kinder to yourself in that sense. Especially because, like you're saying, you just picked this up at the beginning of quarantine. I'm sure you've learned a ton in between there, but it's definitely a journey for sure. Um, Tell me what you have done since then in terms of like clients, in terms of work, like what has been your journey so far?
Um, in terms of clients, I haven't to this day had a client that I'm super excited about. It's kind of like, oh, my friends need this design job done, so I'll do it for them. Or like I meet someone and it's not really like my niche. Like now I'm helping someone who does turf here in Las Vegas, like artificial grass. I'm like, all right, it's fine, but I'm not excited about it. So I did his whole branding and now I run his social media. Um, that's probably the largest project that I have. Everything on my portfolio is either passion projects that I've come up with or projects that, um, like the Instagram challenges, the brand challenges. Um, so that's pretty much everything on my portfolio. Some of the things, I mean, a couple of them, gosh, I'm trying to remember. One was for my sister was trying to start this whole virtual assistant job, so I did it for her, like small things like that, but it's not like huge things I can brag about, like, oh, I worked with this company, I was so excited, I worked with this company, it was great.
Sure. But I mean, that's how it starts.
Yeah.
You find your local businesses, your friends, your family, and
Mhm.
you work your way up from there. What were you doing before design?
I actually lived abroad and was in like a military, so I never did
Very
college or
cool.
anything. Yeah, thank
Very, very cool. Okay. So tell me what is the struggle or what is the thing that you wanted to come into this review and really get into? Because we could look at your portfolio, obviously, but I want to make sure like we kind of talk about and have like a frame of mind to reference before I just start, critiquing things.
you. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. I did kind of want to amp up my portfolio a little before we even had this meeting. So I will say the things that I know I want to fix is I want to show the solution and the problem a bit more, because right now it's like, oh, this pretty thing that I did, this pretty thing that I did. So I want to include that more somehow. So maybe if you have ideas of that on the portfolio. Um, yeah, if you think like the structure of it is weird, I know I've put it on some different Facebook groups that I'm in, and some people love how it's set up. Some people are like, oh, that's kind of weird. I've never seen something like that as far as like the portfolio page goes.
Hmm.
Um, So just, I guess, your take on it, what you think. Yeah, it's the main homepage. And those were all passion projects, those three.
That's fine. I love a good passion project.
Thanks.
Okay, so you've dived into very much the the world of business with your now booking new projects for April and freebie and this and that, which is great. Listen, that's fine. You got to start somewhere. And I think, it's smart that you're acknowledging that stuff now. And you're making content. Let's watch a video. It's me. Oh, wait, no, let's not watch that one. It's a trend. Let's talk about this.
Okay. I feel so exposed.
Okay, cool. So you're going, I would say you're going in the right direction. I think part of it, or part of like what you're experiencing right now, is that you're just starting off a bit and you're still finding your way. You're still navigating like what do I want to do? How do I kind of get my work out there? And that's fine. Like, again, I think you need to be a little kind to yourself about that process and being able to allow yourself the time to, sort like let these things trickle down and they'll figure themselves out eventually. What should I click into? Should I click into one of these, or should we just go to your portfolio and click on something there?
Yeah, we can do the portfolio.
What should I click? Tell me which one I should click into.
Okay, so the one, I mean, I love La Terre, the pottery studio. I'm very proud of that one. So some of them I feel like have more to it. Like this has some examples of social media, like story examples, this and post examples, whereas other ones don't have as much of that. And if I do want to expand towards social media, so I want to go back and add some sort of social media examples to all of them. And also maybe like I said, like maybe at the beginning I can write like a fake mission and vision statement for them and brand adjectives to kind of show what I was going for instead of just, oh, look pretty.
Sure, yeah. Again, I think this is just this is part of coming into this idea of a designer, and how do you work with clients, and what do clients want to know from your presentation? Because immediately what I kind of noticed is that like there's no description here, there's no context, all I get is imagery, and that to me is like the opposite of what a portfolio should be. Portfolio shouldn't just be where you dump all your images that you created, right? Part of being a designer, part of being a business owner, like you're mentioning, you want to work with clients, you want to be able to work with them on ongoing projects and campaigns. If I come here as a client, like all I'm gonna guess is that like you made a bunch of stuff for La Terre, and that I could hire you to make a bunch of stuff for me, right? And so like you kind of end up putting yourself in a situation where you're only a pair of hands. You're not really a partner. You're not really someone who's going to help them find clarity in whatever they're looking for, visually, as a brand, as a strategist, whatever. Right. So I think that's one thing that you need to think about. What I would do is I would start to look for, those other sort of brand strategists or those brand designers, or people, like find those people that you admire and take a note of how they're presenting their work. Take a note how they're walking you through projects, because I'm gonna go ahead and say you follow a bunch of people on TikTok or Instagram that do that. And they may present themselves as very successful, whatever it may be. That's fine, social media, but I would also go as far to say that their clients are probably coming to them with very specific problems, right? And like, what was the problem here that Laterra was having, right? Was it that they just didn't have a brand? They didn't have a look and feel? Did they just need social media assets? Like I need to understand that context. And again, I think referencing those people that you admire that are creating work that you think is what you want to do, will kind of inform a bit better how you should sort of present this stuff as well.
Right.
Because again, at the end of the day, like the biggest thing I see with designers and creatives is that they're presenting the work in a way where, hey, I'm just simply a pair of hands that can do stuff, can make really interesting looking things. And that's all I do, that's what this kind of tells me, is that like you're able to make some interesting looking stuff, but you didn't do anything else, right? Like, how did you work with the client? How did you come to this, this idea, this outcome? What was
Yeah.
the client
I think
thinking?
the biggest like disconnect with this and most of them on my portfolio is that they are passion projects. So it's like I'm either making up a story like, oh, they would have needed this and this and this, and presenting it like that's how I help them, because it's not a real client. But
And that's okay though. I mean, listen, like I have passion projects on my website, on my portfolio, and that one passion project that I had was very much a project that people really gravitated towards because it was like the output was super high. I like to think that like that was some of my best work, and it's because I had full control over it. But also,
right,
I wasn't just, showing imagery. I was talking about how I came about the logo, how I decided to make social media assets, how I decided to come up with the photography and stuff like that. So all of that was like really important in leading to people wanting to know more about that project, right?
I mean that makes sense. I feel like the way that I present it in the different um like presentations that I give at the end to real clients, I'm always very proud of and very happy with, and I go into detail on everything, and that's just missing here. Like I said, because it's not like real clients, but I think that's still something I can add more and like explain. I like what you said, explain the process of it more, like how I came up with everything and the reasoning behind it. I think if you click the Avo Dough one, I think that one has more because that was like a more in-depth challenge that I did. So yeah, I have brand goals, adjectives. So this is kind of what I was thinking to add to the other ones to give it more of a background on like how I came up with the things I did.
Again, so while you're having this in imagery, one, I think you should shift the way you present on your portfolio. I'm assuming that you're doing this intentionally because so you could share it on social media, and that's great. But at the same time, I think there needs to be a different approach for a portfolio website where you are walking through like like you're saying, a brief, right? And just because it's a passion project doesn't mean you can't come up with that, right? Like again,
Yeah.
it's a very easy task, and it actually gives you a little bit more freedom of like,
Right.
hey, Avo Dough is a local, vegan restaurant in my area, blah, 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 blah. This is ultimately a concept project, or, like you can build a story, like exactly how you're doing, your social media content. Like you could do that here as well. And
Okay.
I honestly think I'd even suggest to you, because you seem to have an enthusiasm, and you have like you're like, I think it's a result of you being young, you having a lot of interest in design right now. I think you could do a different approach, which I think would be really interesting to see. Like if making videos is easy for you, like put a video up here, but
Right.
like I would say this, don't link into Instagram. Like take that video that you made for Instagram, figure out how to download it, and then put it in a Vimeo container or
Okay.
something, and let that be
Mhm.
like you explaining the brief. Because I could easily see you making a video where it's like, in my local area, there are a lot of vegan restaurants that do the same thing over and over and over again. So I've tried out all the Food's Delicious but they all look the same. And so this was my idea to come up with a vegan restaurant that would stand out in this local area. Boom, there's your video, right? And you could share that on social media, and you can put that on here, present it in a way. And that's like, that does the work of you having to write out, you know, your description. I don't think your portfolio website should be absent of that contextual text and those descriptions. I think you should still have it, whether you alter it slightly from what you exactly said in the video word for word. But I still think you need to have that, because again, if we're thinking about this more so as like, how do I guide someone through these pages and through these thoughts and, you know, this process that I have, that's going to slow them down. But that can be like an easy way for you to get that thought in your head out on paper. Then you can go into, you know, some of the other things. To be quite honest, I think you need to go and look at more design and more agencies and more designer websites, and find a way of presenting the work that you find interesting. Because I know this is like social media, like you're using this for social media and you're posting this on your account probably. I just don't think it fits here though. I think it needs to be a little bit different.
What I wanted your opinion on. Yeah, because I think, like I said, some people are like, oh, that's cool, it's different. And I think that's always my issue. I'm like trying to be so different, but it's like, well, sometimes the basics work for a reason. But I liked the idea of like the main portfolio page, that all of them pretty much look the same. You see like the main logo and then the dots for like the color palettes. Like I thought that was interesting and different, because I know when I go into other designer portfolios, I get kind of overwhelmed when I see like, oh, a mock-up like this, a mock-up like that. Like it looks like so many different things to me. So I was trying to kind of simplify it, but I might have like overcompensated and oversimplified it.
Yeah, I would actually disagree. I don't think the dots are necessarily they're not adding much, right? Like I don't need to know the color palette. And I think kind of like you said, I think you're trying too hard to be different. Like I would say this, let your differentiator be the fact that you can talk about your work on video. Like a lot of designers I talk to talk about wanting to make content and they struggle with it. And you seem to have a very easy time with that. Let that be your differentiating factor, right? That's going to do a lot more work than you trying to drive yourself crazy and differentiate every piece of a portfolio website or every piece of how you present work. I do think there's somewhat of a traditional, or not so much traditional, but like a basic foundation of what a portfolio needs to be. And I think that, you know, you might be doing too much here, right? Like you have very bright colors, you have a very like, you know, style, very kind of like stylistic typeface that you've chosen as your quote unquote branding, right? I think when it comes to work, you need to let the work speak for itself. And, you know, some of these marks that you've made, some of these logos that you've made are already really interesting. And I would push to let those stand on their own rather than trying to add these little, you know, moments of like, here are the color palettes for everything. You know, like that's something I see on social media, but it's not something that I would say is really adding a whole lot to your portfolio.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's talk about like the work and, you know, this idea like you want to do more. So it's not so much that you're going like you're doing a lot of stuff too as well. So like one, I'm guessing a lot of these projects are like you're saying, they're passion projects, but a lot of them are coming from a place of like you want to create the brand and then you want to like see the brand through of like what it sounds like and what it feels like on social media and stuff like that. And that's great. But I think you need to kind of like consider presenting these in a different way. You're doing a lot in these small images, which I think is what's throwing me off a bit. It's like I'm seeing so much stuff. Like I would want to like so you're saying like here's a bottle mock-up, but then here's another mock-up, right?
Oh yeah.
This is like a story. This is like a story. Great. You're doing a logo anatomy. Like all of this stuff needs to be, I need space. I need time to look at this, right? Like I need to just sit on one image for a bit and really understand like what you're getting at. I'm going to send over, I'm going to try to find some references. Have you ever heard of have you ever heard of Brand New?
No.
Okay. So Brand New is a website blog done by Armin. I forgot his name, and his wife, Birney and Armin, are basically this couple that live out in the Midwest, I think. And this is a website all about branding. It's all about companies coming up with brands and, stuff like just all about design. And I think it's a really good website to reference because it's going to, let me see if I can log in, because I want to show you some of the stuff. And I think this is like some of the stuff that you should be looking at, because it's going to give you a better sense of presentation. It's going to give you a better sense of like how you might want to actually consider presenting this work. 1 second. Let me just log in. Sign in. Open this up. Okay. And let's put this over here. So share screen. Okay. So this is, when I think of design, when I think of branding, and I'm not saying you need to go out and photograph this stuff there. I'll also send over a reference for mockups that I think is really good.
I just bought like a year subscription for Envato. I think that's what it's called.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Envato has some cool stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is just like, I think like you're on the path of making good stuff. You're making a lot of things. This is great. Now it's like you need to figure out how you want to present it to clients, how you want to, in a way, come off to clients as well. I think portfolios are very much that extension of who you are, what you sound like, and how you work with people. And this is a great website to reference when thinking about like, how do we present work that we did for clients or passion projects about branding, about social media, about coming up with logos and stuff like that. Now, I will say a lot of this work is done by like very seasoned businesses, very seasoned design studios. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because it gives you an idea of what you may or may not want to do in the future, right?
Yeah.
It gives you that sense of like aspiration or where you could see yourself. And I think like this is something that I've always referenced in terms of like quality of what I look for when working with clients, or how I want to present the work I did with clients and stuff like that. Oh no, wait, don't go back. Let's go back. Yeah, okay. Let's see, what's another project we can click on? This was really interesting. So this was like a new logo that Nordstrom did for their outlet stores, and they, like this. I mean, this is a great rebrand recently that just came out. So I thought this project was really cool. And I'm not saying you need to get into animation or anything like that, but again, like clicking into a project like this you're gonna read through and you're gonna say, okay, cool. This project was done by Jones Knowles Ritchie, which is a great design agency out of New York. It's going to lead you to them, and you're going to see like all the other stuff that they've worked on, right? Like they worked on Stella, they worked on these big brands that you may or may not want to work with in the future, but it'll give you a sense of what else is out there. What are people making that are really focused on this design, really focused on these branding aspects that you're kind of doing currently in your passion projects, right?
Yeah. No, this is really cool. I think I get most of my inspiration from Instagram or Pinterest. So it is cool to go into the actual websites and see their portfolios and how they set it up and everything.
Yeah,
Right,
I don't think, that's a thing, right? Like people go to Instagram, they go to Pinterest, they go to they go to all these other like kind of like, you know, what is it called? The word escapes me, but like aggregators, right? And what ends up
Yeah.
happening is you just end up getting a lot of stuff that's made for social media, and it looks like it was only made for social media, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, like, and that kind of gets wishy-washy at times, you know? Like
Right.
at the end of the day, some of the stuff that I just kind of showed is what gets bigger clients or allows you to kind of progress in that client ladder of like, yeah, I'm working with local companies now, but eventually I want to work with like a big company or whatever that size is for you, you know? So I think it's like good to start to get away from that. Everything I get inspired by or everything I look at is from social media. You know, you need to be looking at the actual sources that, you know, some of this great work is coming from.
Yeah, I like that. Cool.
What's another project that we should click into? I like the soap one.
Okay. The soap one I think is like very basic, but it has just a few things.
Interesting. Okay. So some notes really quickly. One, I think your homepage is pretty cool. I would work on this, right? Like you're a branding studio, or like, is that how you want to present yourself, right? Like it's a question, it's more so of a question to you.
Yeah,
You don't have
that
to
was
necessarily
based off
answer
of
it now or anything.
well, okay, well, and that was based off of like SEO research. I was trying to type in different things like branding agency, branding designer, branding uh, graphic designer, local. I was trying to plug in different things, and as far as like the easiest one that I found, like to be shown on the first page was branding studio. So that's what I put like as my keywords on the homepage, and you'll see like it's on my Instagram, on all my social media to stay consistent. But that was based solely off of SEO.
Yeah. So again, like you've dived really deep into the rabbit hole of like, what do I do to like all these little hacks and things that like I can kind of like get going. And that's
Yeah.
great. But I don't think that doesn't need to be your focus right now. Your focus needs to be on creating good work, presenting that work in a way that makes sense for you, and letting that speak for itself for now. Because
Okay.
yes, while you're looking to do the SEO, like, oh, I want to come up as branding studio in this search, there's millions of other people doing the same thing, right? And what is going to be the differentiator for you at the end of the day? It's going to be quality of work. It's going to be your personality, and it's going to be your relationships that you develop, whether that's in your local area or with other businesses, you know, in the world. Like that's going to be your differentiator at the end of the day, because all of this stuff like SEO and, you know, doing all these little, you know, little streamlined things, you don't have control over those. You know, you don't have control how Google's going to index your site and show you on a search. So don't worry about that stuff, you know. Focus on the work, focus on the things that you do have control over, and let that speak for itself. And eventually you'll get to a point where you'll say, okay, cool. Like I'm starting to work with bigger clients now. I'm starting to get more work or better work. And you'll come to a point where then you can start worrying about this stuff, right? But that's not now. I would say that's like, you know, out in the future.
Right. How do you find that you build good like relationships with different businesses? Like, what's your
I
strategy?
simply I simply just contact them and you know, like when it comes to like finding clients, I've made a few videos about this, but like I very much believe that design is a, you know, relationship business. It is a business where the person that your customer, right, your client ultimately wants to feel confident in who you are. They want to trust you. And at times the quality of work doesn't necessarily matter, right? Like it does and it doesn't, but they want to know that they can trust someone to do the things that you guys are talking about. So like a lot of my clients have been through networking, through jobs that I've worked previously. And, you know, if I had to go out and find clients today, I would just start messaging, you know, people at companies or, you know, local businesses that I really think are interesting, you know. Like I know you mentioned that you're working with like an AstroTurf company in your area. and it may not quote unquote be the sexiest, but it can be actually. And I kind of like, I want to, it's funny. I reference this guy all the time. Perky Bros Tree Service. So this is a designer that I love, that I reference all the time. And I need to find a new reference. But so when I first started, this was one of the designers that I thought like I wanted to be like. And he came up with, he was talking about how, like, you know, how do you start as a designer? How do you start as like a, you know, someone that wants to be working, creating brands? And he worked with like a local tree company. You know, he's like, I could do this a lot better than what a lot of those companies are doing. Or I think his friend wanted to start a tree service, right? And he created stuff like this to kind of really start to set that person out. And I relate that to this AstroTurf company, because you can very much do the same. You could take this as far as you want to take it and really make that company stand out through design, through the things that you create. And it doesn't have to be that it's just a boring, you know, AstroTurf company. It can be a very cool thing if you can work with the client and help them understand that they can stand out in all these different ways. Another really great one is Aaron Draplin, hot dog. Oh, I think it's called Cobra Dogs. Yeah. So again, this is Aaron Draplin, a really popular designer in the industry, very well known, great guy. I've never met him, but sounds awesome. And one, I would definitely go listen to some of his talks on YouTube and stuff. Really cool the way he speaks about design and like ultimately what he wants to do. But again, like he had a friend who was going to start a hot dog company, and he was like, listen, like, let me do the logo for you. Don't worry about it. Just give me like free hot dogs for life. And I'm going to make something really awesome for you, you know? And he made this logo, and this is like a badass logo that he did. And, you know, he took it as far as he could. He made pins. He got the logo on a cart. He made sauces, you know, like he just really took it as far as he possibly could. And, you know, this is like a great example of like, yeah, AstroTurf may not be sexy, but you could still create, you can still make it sexy in that sense, you know? Yeah. I mean, like this is a menu for Cobra Dogs, right? And it just sort of, all of it feels really unifying. It gives you a sense of the brand. It gives you a sense of that emotion and that personality that he had in mind for this. And I think, you know, like these are all great examples of how you can approach projects, or you can approach client businesses that you think, oh, you know, it may not be like the thing that I ultimately want to be doing, but you make it what it is, you know, like what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So if it's an AstroTurf company and you're not super excited about it, like I would love to work with an AstroTurf company that is like a local company that really has no sense of what they want to do. And they just said, hey, listen, we'll give you this amount to run with it, do whatever you want, and like have fun, because we just want to, like, we trust you and we want to make, you know, we want our business to do well. Like I would have a field day with something like that, you know, because AstroTurf is boring, you know, but like how do me as a designer, as a partner to that client, make it exciting? You know, how do I, like, what am I going to do to really make them stand out and feel proud about working with me?
Yeah.
So I'll send some of these over in the notes and stuff like that. But again, you know, I think for you, it's going to be key of like taking a step back, trying not to differentiate yourself in all these different ways. I think, again, like you can make videos, you can talk on camera, let that be the thing that gets people interested, right? Show people the work through that medium, but make sure that your portfolio is very grounded in this idea of presentation, walking people through the work, and let the work speak for itself there. Don't go overboard with like, I got to do this and do that and SEO this and you know, blah, 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 blah. And I want to have these color palette dots on the thing because like, I've never seen anyone do that. Again, like when you start to get to a place where you're like, I've never seen anyone do this, you need to ask yourself, like, why aren't they doing it? Is it because it could be distracting? Is it because like, is it really adding to the logo or the mark or the thumbnail that I'm presenting? You know, like those are all things that might actually be working against you than making yourself so different and standing out, you know?
Yeah. Very true. Yeah.
Is
Okay.
there anything
I have
you
a lot
want
to think about and go over.
any questions or anything like that you want to go over before, we potentially sign off,
Can I
outside of your
send you the
portfolio?
final thing? Can I send you the final thing that I sent the turf guy, like the final brand presentation that I sent to him? And you let me
Sure,
know what
yeah.
you think of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to email it to me now, we can go over it.
Okay, I'll do that real quick. Okay, what's your email?
John, Jon, at callthedesignguy.com.
Okay. Oops. Ugh. Sorry, one sec. Just send that over.
You sent the email?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Okay, here we go. Go ahead and share my screen here. Awesome. Mission statement, turf offers, quality. Okay, this needs to change, right?
Okay.
This is no one. This is not a contractor. This is not a simple person. This is not a man. This is a genderless thing. Logo on putt putt. Logo on turf. Yeah, there's a lot. So I mean, this is all great. First of all, I want to say this is awesome. I'm glad. In a way, this should kind of be what you're showing on your website, on your portfolio.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
I love this mark. I think this is cool. I mean, this is like your sexy moment of a turf company, right? Like, cool. Like, you got a turf company. Like, it's funny that, yeah, everyone aspires to work with like beauty and Netflix and this and that. But like, these are the fun projects, these are the things that like are really interesting, I think. And I think you've, again, like we were saying, you've taken a very boring company and you've made it exciting. Awesome. Great job. What I would say is like, all this is great. I think like you will benefit eventually you'll benefit just by continuing to go through this process. You'll benefit from continuing to work with clients, finding clients, putting these presentations together. And over time, you're going to get better. Your design skills are going to get better. Your awareness of design is going to get better. I think a lot of this is like a lot of what you've learned, right? Like it's all so fresh that you are still referencing a lot of that stuff. But over time, that's going to change. You're going to have your own voice. You're going to have your own look and feel. So I can only say like, continue down this path, continue working on this stuff. If I had to say like from a you know, if anything about this presentation, I would argue that I don't think you need 5 pages of like the logo on different backgrounds.
Okay.
If anything, I would like think about how do you like that feel these pages feel like if you were to take those out, obviously you would have misuses, typography, mockups, turf, and adjectives, right?
Mhm.
So that like kind of cuts down your presentation a bit. But again, like I don't think you need 5 pages of logo on this, logo on that. I think you can figure out a way to put this, you know, kind of condense this a bit.
Okay.
The one thing would also like to mention as well is think about how, like, when you're delivering we all love a brand guideline. Listen, designers love a brand guideline. But when you're working with a small business like this, think
Yeah.
about like practically what do they need? You know, like are they going to really reference this stuff all the time? Are they really going to stick to this stuff all the time? And like, you know, a page like typography, this is great. Sure. Again, we love a moment of this. And this is more
Mhm.
so maybe something to show to on your portfolio website. But when delivering something like this to a client, I think there needs to be more context and how, because like, you know, you need to ask yourself, are they going to understand header 1, 2, body, and accent, right? Is it better to show how that's used in application and walk them through it, you know? So just like moments like that, again, this is something you'll learn after working with so many businesses, and then you see them go and make their own thing and it's all messy, whatever, you know? So something to kind of just think about.
Cool.
And for a moment like a mock-up, I think this is all great, but again, asking yourself like practically what is needed from the brand and what is going to be the best possible solution. Like you've made this, you've made this little lockup for a mug. Did you deliver this lockup to them for the mug?
No.
Gotcha. So that's like, you know, think about that. Like, hey, this is what a mug could look like. If you ever wanted to come back and create these, you just let me know. Or you could
Yeah.
deliver that, you know, because I mean, if I was this person, if I was this owner, I would say, yeah, I want a mug like that. That'd be cool. I want to order it for like all my employees, you know?
Yeah.
Um, what did they ask you for?
He just basically was like, I'm creating a new business. He has like two turf businesses where he installs turf. He's like, I want to make a new one where I supply it. Um, and he's like, yeah, we need like a logo for that. I'm like, okay. Like he was a very, very simple, very basic, which I see what you're saying. That's like a good opportunity to do whatever I want to do. But at the same time, I feel like he was just like, we just need like a logo. So I'm like, well, you need at least different variations of the logo. Like you might need whatever. Like I wanted to show them what it could look like on different t-shirts, on different things that they could use, notepads, the mug. But really at the end of the day, he's like, I'm just starting a new business. I need like a logo.
That's fine. If you don't mind me asking, how much did you charge for this?
I charged for this plus I'm designing like a business card for him, 1,300.
Good for you. Good. Um, so like in that moment, right, where you're like, this guy's only asking me for a logo, right? That is fine. You're gonna experience that a lot, right? Because a lot of these, like what happens is one, I think it's part knowing how to diffuse a conversation like that.
Yeah.
Um, and two, at the end of the day, this is a business owner that knows how to start and operate businesses. So his goal is to get up and running and get the business making money, right? Like that's his goal.
Yeah.
So he knows that he needs a logo because he knows he needs to throw it on a bunch of stuff. Awesome. You can do a couple of things. You can say, hey, listen, I'll make you the logo. That's fine. I want to go ahead and present you a few different other things that I think would really help your business grow and stand out. All right. Like that's the direction that you've kind of taken.
Yeah.
But you can also, as you start to work with more businesses, clients like this, you'll have this moment of like, okay, I know I've heard this person before, I've heard their story before from other clients. Like, do I need to really go all out here? And you could just create that thing that they want, and you can get it done. And you can then go ahead and do all this other stuff for yourself if you wanted to. I'm sure in that conversation when you were like, yeah, you need a logo, but you also need all this other stuff, that probably
Mhm.
wasn't like the most, pleasant conversation, right? Because they were probably telling you, well, I really don't need all this other extra stuff. I appreciate the work, but like I'm not going to use any of this other stuff. Like in somewhat in that
No,
vein.
not really. He was very like very open to everything. He was like, okay, if I'm paying for it once, I don't mind. He's like, well, you're the expert. Like, you're right. Just give me like whatever you think I need, kind of a thing.
Okay, cool. So was there a moment of like where you actually got him to, you sort of like upcharged him a bit?
No.
No. So it was like, here's the price that I'm doing it at. This is what comes with it.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good on you. That's
Thank
where
you.
all this like Instagram deep dive rabbit hole business stuff came in handy. Good for you. So I mean,
Thanks.
again, like there's that moment I'm talking about, right? Like all this other stuff that you're doing, that you're trying to differentiate, like at the end of the day, it may just be extra stuff, but like that moment of like being able to confidently say like, this is what I'm going to hand you, this is all the stuff and the reasons why I'm going to do it for you, and this is what it costs. That
Yeah.
is the most important part, right? Like that is the moment that like, okay, cool, what I've said to this client made sense, it clicked, they understand it, and that means that like I'm doing something right,
Yeah.
um and I would also go ahead and say that this is probably a person they'd want to keep in touch with if if they have multiple businesses and they'd want to potentially work together
Yeah.
again.
I'm running his social media for one of the other turf businesses that he has.
What's that like?
Um,
What's it
Honestly,
called?
again, it's not something I'm proud of. I'm like, okay, I just put stuff up because, but it's Pure Turf USA. Yeah. No, that's not it. Pure Turf USA. So we have 2 reels, 2 posts, 2 carousels a week. So I just have it like literally in that layout, which I don't love. This is like why I'm not advertising it, because I don't like love it, but it gets everything across, gets everything that he needs. It attracts like the people here in Vegas who want turf done.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a diamond in the rough, like I'm saying, like this is an opportunity to flex, to practice.
Yeah.
Um, and why do you think, like when you say like it's not something I'm proud of, is it because visually, or is it because like where does that feeling come in?
Yeah. Well, all of these posts going down are before me.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think visually, I think it's just kind of boring. Like it's like, okay, how much can I do with this? And I see what you're saying. Like, yeah, there's a lot I can do with it. It's about like my attitude, my outlook on it, which you're totally right. But
What is the process for, like, when you say that you're doing what, 2 reels, 2 carousel posts, and what a week?
and to like normal posts, like just a photo.
Okay. What, if you don't mind me asking, what are you charging for that?
I think that also came out to 1,300. I think both of them somehow. But that one, that was more of a deal because he's like, I'm paying for this monthly. So I was
Yeah.
charging, or I had like just different packages. And then he was like, well, and he kind of like messed with stuff. And he's like, well, this is like the most I'll pay. And I'm like, you know what? All right, that works for me. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you making everything yourself?
He sends in the videos and the photos, and then I edit everything, and then I like come up with the graphics and everything, and then just put it up.
Gotcha. So there's an opportunity right there, right? Like you don't know what you're going to get from him potentially.
Yeah.
And as you're saying, like, yeah, it's kind of boring. I'm trying to work with the best I can. And, there's an opportunity to do some art direction here, right? So what you could do, right, in this sort of like monthly retainer kind of aspect. Also, I think 1,300 for basically like 6 posts a week is it's kind of a lot, right? That's 4 weeks, so 20, 24. Am I right on that? Yeah, 24 posts a month. Um, something to think about, but
You think the price
you're
is a
gonna
lot, or
get
you think it's a lot of posts?
I think that's a lot of work. I think that's a lot of work. I mean, like, listen, it's a learning process, right? But
Mhm.
knowing how, for me, like making social media content is not like my pride and joy. It's not something I'm excited about.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
so like that's
interesting.
something to ask yourself, right? Like,
Yeah.
is this too much? Is this work taking away from other stuff like finding more clients and stuff like that, right? That's where you start to get into.
Yeah.
But anyway, you're going to get whatever photos he takes, right? And you're going to try to work with it as best as possible. And sometimes you'll have interesting images like this, potentially. And sometimes you'll have very boring images like this, or okay, this is a video. Cool. And you're going to try to work with that as best as possible. And I think this is an opportunity where you can slot yourself in and say, hey, listen, um, you know, this is all great, but next time you take photos, use these as references, right? And then you're going to go ahead and pull in, a board. You're going to make a board of what he should be looking or how he should be taking photos. Same thing with
Yeah.
videos, right? You could do all of that stuff. And that is where you start to find the opportunity of how to make this something that you're proud of, right? Like
Yeah.
instead of him just handing you whatever he has, you
Right.
can direct it a bit. You can kind of come up with it. And then
Yeah.
also, this is a great opportunity to potentially talk about like, hey, we're doing pure turf, one step at a time, of course, but like I could see you having a conversation about rebranding this as well, and doing some visual work for
Mhm.
this as well.
Yeah.
Um, like, is this the best logo for social media and for branding? You can have a conversation of that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I think uh, like what you're saying, I see it so clearly if I was working with like a fashion business, if I was working with like beauty products, like something like that. I see myself like being able to send them, oh, these are the photos you should take this month. This is what you should do. And then I like flip over and try to think about it with this. I'm like, well, I feel like he wouldn't want to. Like he just wants everything really as simple on his part as possible. So he uploads everything, like dozens of photos, dozens of whatever. He's like, you just choose, you just put it up. So he doesn't want to do all the work. And I'm like, well, you can tell, like the people who are working for you who go in and do the jobs and fix everything, like tell them to take the photos. He's like, nah, like, okay, I might not.
yeah,
So
I mean, so to that point, right? Yes, it could be. Listen, the grass always, funny that we're talking about turf. The grass always
yeah,
seems greener on the other side, right? So you're like, oh, fashion brand would totally love to do this. And they totally
right.
have an eye for this stuff.
Yeah,
Yes, that might be the case for some, but I would argue, if this guy really doesn't have an opinion, or this business doesn't really have a vision, and they're just like, I know I need to make content, that's where you come in to have that conversation. Um,
right.
your I think what you can kind of like hang on to, or what you can kind of reference as a point, is that how does this contribute to business, right? This guy knows money. This guy knows how to make money.
Mhm.
So instead of just saying like, hey, I think your photos could be better, why don't you present it in a way of like, hey, the photos you're sending me are great and all, and they work, but I think things could get a little bit better so that they get more traction on social and potentially attract more clients. right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's kind of tough because like I'm not an Instagram person. Again, this is why I don't like to work in social media, because this person knows that they need to make content, right? Like they have that in their head, but the world of Instagram is such a wild west of like, engagement matters, things like that matter. So, how do we like the engagement currently is not quite there, right? You're getting like a low amount of likes, but this person happens to have like 4,000
Yeah. This was
followers,
like a
right?
different account. This was a different account for his different business before. So I had to go in and like unfollow all these people and refollow them. Um, like refollow new people who would be the ideal clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would, like, again, this is an opportunity where you can go in, find other turf companies that have a bigger social following, that are like making it that way and doing well
Mhm.
on social, and present that as like a, hey, here's an opportunity where we can improve, and these are the steps to do so,
Right. Right. Good
I,
advice.
as much as you're saying, fashion brand would be so much better to do this, take this as a learning opportunity. Take this as an opportunity to, one, practice that conversation of like, being a partner with this business as a creative. And
Mhm.
then also take it as a learning opportunity to really direct and mold what this should look like.
Okay.
Any other
Yeah.
questions or anything like that?
No, I don't think so. I think this is very helpful though. Really, I mean, it's like most things in life, that's about the mindset and how you're
Yeah.
looking about like what you have and what you can do with what you have. And that's just
I
really
worked
interesting.
I worked a job where I was making digital ads for websites, and it was
Okay.
so boring. But
Yeah.
thankfully at the time I was working with a really cool, a group of really cool people that I like, enjoyed seeing every day. And I will never forget that I ended up learning a lot, and that led me to some really great opportunities, even though the work was boring, right? Even though it wasn't sexy, it wasn't beautiful, it wasn't shiny, it still led me, one, I learned a shit ton. And also, again, it led me to so many better opportunities after that. And I think that was the biggest thing I took away from that, is that it doesn't have to be the most shiny, beautiful, sexy business to work on. But if I approach it this way, who knows what will come out of it? If I put as much work into it as I want to, something good is bound to happen.
Right. Good advice.
Um, So after this, you'll get an email in about 5 or 10 minutes or so. It's going to have a link to just like 2 or 3 questions. The faster you can send that back to me, the faster that'll help me know where I should send the link to this recording, and the notes from this and all the references that we talked about. So
Okay.
um,
What do you want to do
my,
this? Like help other people with their portfolio?
I'm sorry.
What made you want to do this and help other people with their portfolio?
Um, at the moment, I am taking a step back from like client work a bit, and
Okay.
wanting to sort of like, I've always done portfolio reviews, and I think, it's something that I learned in school. Like when you graduate a design school, they usually recommend like go ask for a portfolio review from like a design studio that you liked, because it's a good way to network and it's a good way to meet people. And so, one, I think for me, it's like, I know eventually I'll have my own design business more formally outside of me just being a freelancer. And
Mhm.
this is a good way to, one, find really talented, designers and creatives that are making cool stuff. Um,
Sure.
I think also it's a great way to make content about design and start to build up that leg of, something like a YouTube channel and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
so it's a bit of an experiment to see where it goes, to be quite honest. It's not like I have a clear direction. It's more of just like, I can take the time right now to mess around with a few different ideas I've had playing in my head and see where it goes.
Yeah, cool. Also from like the business mindset, you can come up with like different courses on how to help people with their portfolio. And then one, you already
Yeah.
have all of us who are like interested in that, and two, you have like people who you've actually helped before, and you see like what the recurring problems are and how you can fix those.
Yep, there is a list of ideas behind that. If I do decide that I want to put together a course, it's definitely an opportunity to. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll see.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Well, Kayla, it was lovely to meet you. If you have my email, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a note, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a good one. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye.